Hello and welcome to Apollo City Comics. I am Brandon, your host, and with me, my co-host, David.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Solid intro, man.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Good winging it. We're here to talk about comics, about our comics, the comics we love, the comics that take us out of our everyday reality and bring us into this glorious world of everything but reality, pretty much.
Wow, that's poetic. I love that.
Good
I
winging
love that, man.
Keep going. So we have our countdown of how many do we have? About five,
Five
give or
each,
take.
yeah.
There's some extra,
some more important than others.
Yeah, nothing's. There's some good ones, and there's some. Hopefully, we just say them all right. Essentially.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I didn't pick any duds. I hope not.
I feel like all yours were duds.
Off to the stab. Well, should we dive right in? Is it time?
Yes, let's go with your first pick.
Yeah, all right, man.
David, sir. Tell us about this series.
Well, this one in particular, I'm not really going to get too much in the series. This is why I put this one first, because I wanted to kind of touch base on it. But all of these comic books, these horror comic series like Strange Tales or like Tales of Horror. This one is a Boris Karloff thing. I bought this comic not that long ago, which I'm kind of stoked because when I was looking at it, I was like, there's no reason for me to buy this. And then just a few weeks later, now we're using it. Well, it was just in there. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're browsing and there's just like one. You're like, what was this?
I really like the cover.
I love the cover too. Yeah. The reason I bought this thing is because this is the reason why I read comic books, or all of these. My dad would bring me home like a random 70s horror comic book all the time when I was a kid, when I was like 7 or 8. And he did it because he read these when he was a kid, and that was like his big thing. He read horror comic books and Jonah Hex. He was a big Jonah Hex fan, which I think is really weird.
Just that old horror westerns. That's how it all started. Yeah.
Yeah, he loved both of those, horrors and western comic books. So I grew up reading a ton of comics like this, and I had a big stack of. My brother has them now. I'll have to see about getting them back. But
was he really into EC Comics, the publisher?
Does that
sound familiar?
To be honest, I can't even tell you, dude. It's been so long. It's such like a distant memory.
We got to do an episode on that. That'd be great.
But these were the first comic books I ever read, like were horror comic books from the 70s, and I was like, when I looked through them in the shop and I saw that thing, it just hit me, the wave of nostalgia. I was like, this is the reason. Because after that I read some Spider-Man and all that, and like I read a lot of Archie comics, which isn't really a comic book. It's more like I don't know what you would call that. It's a comic book.
Yeah, it's a comic book, yeah.
But it just feels so... Maybe because
like Sunday page.
It's because they sell it at the line at Walmart. That's why it doesn't feel like
Reader's Digest.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it feels like, a digest magazine.
I think that's why I never read Archie, because I was like, it's for my grandparents or something.
Yeah, it feels very like Peanuts or something.
Yeah.
Or like, yeah.
And Peanuts was cooler than Archie.
Well, okay, whatever. We'll get into that, man. The first big disagreement of the show. Well, what is better, Peanuts or Archie? That's tough.
Let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
Let us know.
You tell us what's better.
And we'll look into this.
Yeah, well, why don't you hit us with what you got going on next? I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. I was super stoked that the stars aligned.
Great, like deep meaning under that first book too. Gosh.
Well, thank you.
Well, my first pick is Bernie Wrightson's Master of the Macabre. Man, okay, Bernie Wrightson. Bernie Wrightson, brilliant artist. I believe Bruce Jones is the guy that also wrote a lot of the stories in this book as well. It's a little anthology series. It's only 5 issues. Each issue has like 4 or 5 stories in it. Most of them are, I want to say it's Bruce Jones who wrote the stories, and Bernie did all the artwork for him. Okay. And each one's totally different. And he even does some Lovecraft stories. He does some Edgar Allan Poe stories that he illustrates and just bases it off of there.
That's cool. Do you know which Edgar Allan Poe ones there are by any chance?
It's one with a cat.
The black cat? Is that one? Got a black cat.
It's like issue 4. I can't even think. But I was just it's
okay,
cool.
Well, we'll
it's like a cat that what's the cat? Yeah, the cat follows him around everywhere, and then he loves it, and then he tries to get rid of the cat, and then the cat doesn't. They think it goes away, and then it comes back, and then he kills his wife and the cat at the end. Basically, he just goes crazy and kills 2 cats, or essentially the same cat that comes back and haunts him.
Yeah, and then comes back again because it has 9 lives. So
yeah, exactly.
Kill it another 7 times.
Exactly. And he does a Lovecraft story called Cool Air, and that one is about a guy that he has a really rare like kind of blood type or disease actually, and he has to be like in cold weather all the time, and so his downstairs neighbor is the one writing the story, and he has to go up there. The downstairs neighbor is writing and has a heart attack and climbs his way up to knowing that this guy's a doctor, and the doctor lets him in and everything, and he discovers what this guy's been doing. It's all a crazy scientific lab and whatnot, and the doctor, the room starts heating up again, and then the doctor's like, bring me ice, and the guy's getting ice and doing all this stuff to keep this doctor cold. And when he comes back after the, searching everywhere for ice, after a day or so, he comes back, and then the doctor's all melted and everything, and apparently
Whoa.
the guy died like 6 months ago, but is keeping himself alive through the
Whoa,
cold.
that's metal.
And
That's
he's
so
all
cool.
just deformed and melted, and he's all and Bernie Wrightson's artwork is brilliant for this. Bernie knows how to get the deep, obscure, like zombie destroyed type of look, like where you look at horror and you want to turn away. Bernie Wrightson's just staring at it still, trying to get every feature, and you just feel it. The first story is brilliant. In fact, on a side note, if we edit this, I should read the beginning of this first story at the beginning of this podcast because it's so freaking creepy.
Ooh,
it's
interesting.
Super good.
That would be a really cool way to start off a podcast. A little story time.
Yeah,
Story time
read
with
like the
Brandon.
first page of something. Yeah,
And I'll do all
great.
the voices. Oh no! Watch out! No, probably won't do that.
That'd be cool.
No, I don't think it'd be cool.
Sounds
That's a great idea, though. We gotta pin that thing
but this
down,
one,
man.
it's a cool anthology, and Bernie Wrightson's artwork is beautiful. We're gonna talk about him more. We're gonna talk about Lovecraft more right now.
That's funny.
and
I have a
Alan
little bit of
Moore.
Lovecraft in mind too.
Oh, great!
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's funny how that ties together.
I have a whole talk. I have a speech prepared about that.
Right
Well,
on.
I'm gonna wing the speech. But
Are you a big Lovecraft person?
I am a huge Lovecraft
Wow.
person.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And I'm a big Alan Moore fan, so just researching his work and trying to understand his work led me to Lovecraft. And Lovecraft just, I didn't like Edgar Allan, but I still don't like Edgar Allan Poe.
Really?
I'm not a big
Okay.
Poe fan.
Interesting.
But I think it's because I read Lovecraft before Poe, and Lovecraft just blew my mind so much that reading Poe, I was like, this ain't nothing.
Interesting.
This ain't scary.
I haven't read a lot of Lovecraft. I mean, I know about like the theme of the universe or Cthulhu or whatever, but I've never read a Lovecraft story. On the other hand, though, I've read a ton of Edgar Allan Poe stories, which is funny.
It's funny. I haven't read that many Edgar Allan
We
Poe.
got these things covered. We got the bases covered.
We'll have
man.
a debate.
There we
A
go.
Poe versus Craft.
Poe,
Yeah.
ooh, Poe versus
Yeah.
Lovecraft.
Yeah.
Dang. Okay.
Down for that.
I'm gonna start writing.
But this series is just amazing, and Bernie Wrightson passed away, unfortunately, a few years ago, and just seeing his work and how strong and amazing it was in the 70s to even now, before when he recently passed away, it's astonishing. And it's creepy, and it's, when I think of horror, he did the artwork for Creepshow.
Oh,
That comic book in it, he did the
Okay.
artwork for that. So a
That's
lot of
so
people might be
cool.
more familiar with that. But
Yeah,
look up
that's a
Bernie
good-
Wrightson.
that's
He
a good
also-
anchoring point.
He did amazing. I should have thought about that one. A Frankenstein story, and the artwork in that is just so detailed and so on point. He's one of the great artists of our generation, of our time.
What's his Frankenstein story called?
I think it's just straight up called Frankenstein.
Just called Frankenstein.
Yeah,
Okay,
IDW
right
was
on.
publishing it.
Right
I gotta
on.
look that up. Might be under a different name, but actually, the first story in the first issue is kind of a Frankensteinish looking character too.
Oh, okay.
And it's maybe we could throw some panels up right now of that first page. but
Yeah,
it's just
we
creepy.
gotta toy around with that too. Like if we want to add panels and stuff. I was thinking the
Just
same
like
thing.
kind of
That'd be
floating
cool.
through. Yeah, that'd be great for the video.
Yeah, or toss some covers up or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
definitely. But yeah, if you want good horror and great comic book horror, it really has that EC Comics feel. So, and that's back in the day before Comics Code Authority kicked in and stopped because it was so horrific and detailed, and where covers would just have a guy with an axe and a girl's head just dripping with blood and whatnot.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
But yeah, it's good stuff. It's
Cool,
a quick
man.
read, and it's
I'm
great.
excited. I'm gonna check that out for sure. That sounds right up my alley.
And let's go with your next pick.
Yeah. What do we got next? Oh, great. Yeah. So
The Walking Dead.
I'm gonna just talk briefly about myself again, but when Brandon asked me to do this comic podcast, we're kind of coming from two very different avenues, where I'm very much like an amateur comic book fan. Like I'm really not that deep into it. The comics that I do read monthly, I don't think any of them are like traditional comics, like superhero stories.
No, because you showed me Low and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
I just, and I'm not trying to be like a hipster or something, but Walking Dead is what really brought me back into comics as being a huge zombie fan. So I read Walking Dead in high school, and then I kind of stepped away from it a little bit. I wasn't into the idea of buying books every month, and then the show came out, got me a little more interested into it. I hopped back in the comic book, and now I'm still reading. I've gotten a good amount of these Walking Dead books now, dude. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. But what can you say about Walking Dead? So obviously, I mean, I feel like you'd have to be living under a rock to not know this Robert Kirkman. Like, this is his thing.
The guy blew up so much
Yeah.
in just the last few years. It's insane.
Walking Dead became the biggest show on television and was the biggest show on television for a long time. I don't know. I know now that the ratings are kind of waning a little bit.
But it's still huge.
It's still
You
huge.
still can't avoid the advertisement.
Yeah. It's a
At Comic-Con,
giant
they
thing.
hand you a Walking Dead lanyard. Like,
Yeah.
you're going to end up with that one no matter what.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy how huge Walking Dead's gotten.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to bring up, though, in this whole horror comic book discussion is that I think Walking Dead really hasn't been a horror comic book for a long time, though. It kind of transformed into another thing.
See, I haven't read it since, like, what we were talking
Yeah.
about, Glenn's death. That was, like, around the time I stopped.
Okay.
What has
so you
changed?
read the first 100 issues?
Yes,
Then?
yeah.
Okay. Cool. So the beginning, if you're not familiar with Walking Dead, it's very much like a scavenger story. Like we have the main character Rick Grimes. He's separated from his family. He's trying to get back, and then at the same time, he's learning the rules of the universe and what makes people turn, what doesn't make people turn. And at the beginning, it feels like a traditional zombie story, but and it's actually right around issue 100, right where you jumped off, when Negan shows up and kills Glenn, and the whole story kind of changes to a different focus, where now it's like Rick finds himself as part of a bigger community, which happens a little bit before 100.
Yeah,
and he
remember that.
He
Yeah.
steps into like a leadership role in a community, and it just gets a different vibe because now there's so many people. There's hundreds of people living together.
Does he get old? Or is it fresh still? Do you still think it's hitting it?
Well, okay, so the TV show, I think, hasn't hit it 100% all the time. I think early on in the show, you were knocking it out of the park. Some people complain about the second season. I love the second season. I think it's terrifying.
That's where it stops.
It's got, which is so funny because that's like one of my favorite seasons. Walking Dead, all the way up to 5 or 6, just stays really strong and consistent. The show gets a little repetitive because of the way that it's formed. As far as the comic book goes, I think that they were doing a great job up to 100, where you get Negan showing up, and you really bust it to a whole new level where they're like fighting on like a war scale, and it's called All Out War when Negan shows up. That's the arc. That whole storyline is kind of Games of Thrones-ish in a weird way. You have like these little kingdoms battling with each other and making alliances. So to me, that stayed really fresh. I felt like it was new. It was like new material.
So where did the zombies come in now?
Well, the zombies are the secondary thing, and really only in the first, I don't know, 50, I think issue 50 or something around there is when the governor shows up.
Yeah.
Up till that
And
point.
that's a horrific part too, just
Yeah.
that character.
Well, the governor is so brutal in the comic book compared to the
show.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
'Cause
the
there's
show
some-
really wimped out on the governor.
Michonne part with the governor.
Yeah.
Oh man, just she chopped him to pieces.
Yeah,
right?
she chops him up like grotesquely, and,
then-
there's some of that in the show, but it's watered down.
Yeah, so much water. And then even the part that disappointed me the most, just maybe because it's pretty gruesome.
Yeah.
But when the governor comes back into the prison, and then with tanks and everything, and the military blasting through, and then you see Rick's wife running, and she's like pregnant, or is she pregnant?
She just gave birth to the baby.
She just gave birth to the baby, and then you just see the bullet go through the stomach, and then the baby died. I mean,
Terrifying
you can't show that
panel. on
like TV. But
You
I mean, that'd be
can.
great.
Well,
That would be great.
This goes back to it, but I've been saying for a long time that Walking Dead should have never been on AMC. It should have been on HBO. And if you're going to do Walking Dead, you got to pull no punches. That's the point of the story.
Yeah.
If you're like easing your way around, but then you say that, and a bunch of people jump ship at episode 100, the episode where Glenn died. And I had a bunch of friends who told me, "Oh, it was just too intense. I can't watch the show anymore." I'm like, well, the Judith thing was way worse.
Yeah,
when they killed Rick's
so
baby
much.
was like grotesque. Although Glenn it was a fan favorite, which is why everyone got hurt by that.
Well, I mean, even when I remember reading, there's moments of certain series that I remember so well when I was reading it. The first one is probably Watchmen, when you turn the page and then you see the alien kind of destroying Manhattan.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm freaking out in middle
"What?"
school when I read that.
Yeah.
But one of them was when I turned the page and you see Glenn's skull getting crushed and
it's
his
like
eyeball
eyes coming out. Oh yeah, that
and
sticks
that was
with me too.
a sickening stomach moment, and I definitely remember that, and I felt sad and I wanted to throw up, and it's great how it could grasp you like that.
It is. That's the best part about Walking Dead. The downside, though, is that the reason why Glenn's was so impactful is because he's been one of your favorite characters the whole time. You'd have a hard time reading Walking Dead and not liking Glenn.
Yeah.
He's an awesome character. But now that Walking Dead's on like 180, you know, you just can't keep killing people off and it being as impactful. Because you're going to run out of characters or you know, you're not going to be able to build up that relationship. Yeah, and then the newer characters they introduce, some of them are really cool, but to me, none of them are as, you know... Captivating as the original crew. So
who's left of the original crew in the comics now?
Walking Dead spoilers, everybody, because I'm 100% caught up. Of the original crew, it's really only Rick and Carl.
Really? Carl's still alive? I heard he died for some reason.
Carl dies in the show.
Oh.
Show spoilers. Sorry, I should have said that earlier. Carl died in the show, which was like super controversial. And now Rick is leaving the season.
Yeah.
So he's going to die in 2 episodes. Great, now I'm dating it. By the time this comes out, Rick will only have 1 episode left.
Do you think they'll kill him or do you think they'll send him on a path?
I'm calling it right now, everyone. I'm glad we did this. I feel like I didn't call it on We Did a Podcast with Frank and everything, but on Walking Dead, the TV show, they are not going to kill Rick Grimes. They're going to have a community from some other group, some like advanced community who needs like a leader, and they're going to like fly Rick Grimes out of there on a helicopter. And what's hilarious is, like, I said this, and I'm trying to be 100% sincere when I'm not making stuff up. I said this like 2 weeks ago, and then we're watching Walking Dead this last weekend, and helicopter flies overhead, dude, like off in the distance, and the character's like, what? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's coming. But that's what's going to happen. They're not going to kill him off. Rick's going to be like, well, you know what?
Well, that keeps him open to come back and make appearances. Because I know he's leaving because of his family.
Yeah, he's leaving because he doesn't want to be like stuck doing this thing on Walking Dead.
He's from the UK, and he's just like, guys, this isn't Georgia.
It's a huge commitment, too. Yeah. You know what I mean? That kind of show.
For the 9 seasons, that's astonishing.
It's and he's been a huge part of the show, so I'm curious to see the show hangs on. The comic book, I think, will be okay. The newest arc right now, it's a little bit tired to me. It depends on where they go with it, because now they've blown it up to another community. So the whole point of that 1 in 100 is that Rick suddenly finds himself in a big community, and then after that they find a couple of the same size communities. Well, now in this one you found this brand new group of people that's huge, that's the size of a state.
Oh wow.
And it turns out that they've like introduced this whole class system again, basically, where your job is determined by what your job was before the event. So Michonne shows up, and she was a lawyer, so immediately they give her this like expensive apartment. They give her all this because she has the knowledge. She's actually like one of the only lawyers left in the world, so they need her knowledge of litigation to figure this thing out. To me, I'm like, man, well, you know, inevitably, what's going to happen? You know, something's going to come in, some big fight, and then Rick's going to take over, and then Rick will be in charge of this giant group. Like,
do you think zombies will come back as a big play at any point?
To me, I don't see it happening, because they have conquered the fear of the zombies. They know how to handle the situation, and now the main issue is people. And it actually goes to like...
So the living's scarier than the dead at this point.
And that's kind of the theme of Walking Dead, like throughout the thing, that the people are more dangerous, like the governor is the bigger danger than the zombies. Yeah. And now we're getting into like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which gets into some weird psychology stuff, but like at the base level, you need to survive. Then once you survive, you can start worrying about everything. And then way up as we climb up, you know, readily available food, readily available shelter, you know, family and community and everything. Way at the top, we have like social issues, which is now what Walking Dead's getting into. Dang. Some social commentary. And a couple weeks ago, the issue was on like essentially police brutality, where you have one of the guards like beat this guy almost to death. I think he killed him, actually. I need to reread it. But that's now the hot topic in Walking Dead, and it feels maybe a little too on the nose with what's going on in like U.S. politics and everything.
But like, what a time, and what a way to introduce it.
And comic books do that all the time, right? They're a great social commentary. The last thing I want to throw in that sucked me back in, because every time I feel like Kirkman's losing me a little bit, I'll read a couple issues and be like, eh.
I remember,
He'll smack me in the face though. Michonne's daughter is alive.
Oh, wow.
And she's been alive this whole time. Michonne gets to this community. There's this giant billboard of all these photos of people that they're looking for. Like, have you seen my sister? It's this huge billboard with like hundreds of photos. Michonne looks up and she sees her photograph on the billboard. And it turns out that her daughter found this group, and she thought her daughter had been dead this whole time.
Oh, man.
So like all of a sudden Michonne has a family again. And it was just
That's
like...
crazy, because I can't even picture that, because she's so brutal and intense.
Exactly. Dude, it's crazy.
I gotta read it. Yeah,
it's definitely worth catching up. Robert Kirkman, he hadn't lost me yet on Walking Dead. I'm in it. I'm in it till the end.
He's just slaying.
Yeah, he's slaying, and he's that guy doesn't have to work another day for the rest of his life.
He could stop whenever.
Yeah, he can
and
stop.
I'm so
whenever he
glad
wants.
he's not.
Yeah, right on.
And he has like 4 series out right now.
I mean, Invincible was a huge success. Outcast is still going.
Ended. Outcast is still going.
Yeah, there's another one.
Die just came out.
That's what it is. Yeah, I haven't read that yet.
The Oblivion song is on volume 2 now.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I should branch out a little bit more on my Kirkman.
I just gotta read more.
I'll be the Kirkman guy.
Yeah, the Kirk. Captain Kirk.
Captain Kirk.
So the next one.
Oh, yeah. Let's see what's next.
This is one of my favorites. American Vampire.
I've never read this, dude. I'm super excited to hear what's going on here.
Not a fan of vampires.
Okay.
Not a fan of the classic kind of creepy, crawly type of thing. Like, Bernie Wrightson does it in his own way, and it's its own eeriness that you feel it. But I don't... Twilight ruined vampires for just about everybody.
You know what? I don't like Anne Rice either. I've never been like Interview with a Vampire.
I never got into that.
30 Days of Night. I love 30 Days of Night.
Have not seen it. Should look into it. I've been told.
The art style's awesome in the book, and the movie's really good too. So I'll loan it to you. I have the trade paperback.
Bram Stoker's Dracula is probably my only one I like.
I mean, it's classic.
It's a great movie,
and it's got that gothic. Like I love when they remake the movie and they still keep that theme, like the Keanu Reeves one.
Oh yeah.
And the Bela Lugosi is classic film. Yeah,
Gary Oldman's freaking awesome.
There's some good stuff, but there's a lot of bad vampire stuff. Twilight really
just destroyed it.
Really,
so I was really hesitant approaching this series.
I could see.
I really only hit it because Scott Snyder, the writer, wrote a phenomenal Batman series for DC's New 52 era, basically.
Okay.
And if you guys haven't heard of Scott Snyder, I mean, get out of a rock, read some Batman, read some Justice League. Man, that guy's destroying it at everything. And he's such a nice guy, such a humble, sweet. He'll remember you no matter what.
Wow.
You could see him a year from now, and then be like, oh, I think I met you before. And then he's just the coolest, sweetest guy. And
that's nice.
But this one, it's funny, kind of the origin of the story from what I heard or from what I remember. He was going to school with this kid, and his last name was King, and he was like, oh, it's funny, it's like Stephen King, and the kid's like, oh, Stephen King is my dad. And then he was like, what? And then he got Stephen King to read a story, and Stephen King actually worked on American Vampire with Scott Snyder.
Whoa. Yeah. Okay.
So if you want some Stephen King awesomeness and blessed story.
So did he help write it, or what did he do?
He has his own little story at the end of each issue for the first volume. Yeah. And the series, it's crazy because it starts off, it's already an American Vampire. I think it starts off in the 20s or something. And this vampire basically has different powers than your regular vampire. Like, sunlight doesn't affect him. What affects him, what makes him weak, is moonless nights. And that's when he's weakest. And that's the only time you could probably kill this guy. But in the sunlight, he's actually stronger than he is like in regular moonlight. Wood doesn't kill him. Silver doesn't kill him. The only thing that kills him is gold. And this whole storyline stretches from the 20s. And I think the second cycle that they ended it on was during the Cold War era, from what I understand. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's just great storytelling. Scott Snyder is awesome.
Yeah.
And it's just a phenomenal series. And if you don't like vampires, this will change your view on vampires and be like, man,
dude,
there's still
I'm super
some hope.
down for this, man.
Yeah, it's great. It's freaking awesome. I want to say there's an omnibus. By the time this comes out, the volume 1 omnibus is going to be out. And you get the first like 30 issues with some side stories as well. And they've had phenomenal artists on it. Raphael Albuquerque does the main art for the main series. Such a sweetheart as well. I've met that guy at Comic-Con as well. Super great guy. He does some awesome work on Batman for Detective Comics. And then you have Sean Murphy did a story arc as well. And Sean Murphy just did Batman White Knight. Gosh, I just know Batman artists and writers. But White Knight, he also did some other cool stuff like Tokyo Ghost, the artist for Tokyo Ghost. There you go. Yeah. And Sean Murphy's also a very nice guy.
Did he work on Low at all? I feel like he's on there too. Or maybe I'm getting...
No, I don't think Low.
I think I'm just thinking of Tokyo Ghost.
Kind of... Yeah, maybe art style if you think about it in your head.
Yeah, they share the same writer. I'm pretty sure. I need to look at this.
Yeah, Rick does it.
Rick Remender?
Remender, yeah, something.
Remender? I don't know. Ooh, I feel embarrassed. Great book though.
Yeah,
I love Low.
Definitely. I've only read volume 1.
Yeah,
but I need to catch up. But it's still going on.
Yeah, it is.
So definitely, we'll talk about it soon. But American Vampire, check it out. It's just fun, and there's even like Nazi era stuff and World War II stuff, and it's just interesting. It's just super fun and super. You get entrapped by the characters, and it goes in even to like FBI agents and whatnot. So super rad. Definitely worth a read. Definitely worth checking out. I guarantee after the first volume you'll be hooked and just keep reading it. Yeah.
I'm kicking myself a little bit because we're talking about a little bit of vampire stuff now, and I forgot that I have this book called Gabriel. Have you ever read that?
No.
It's from a local artist from El Paso. And
is it like a night thing? It's like...
It's all black and white. And it's Gabriel is a vampire living in El Paso. And basically, he's responsible for all the disappearing women in the 90s that disappeared in Juarez.
Oh, wow.
It was like him feeding. It's like an alternate take on history. But
super cool.
I met that guy, and he like signed the book for me and everything. I mean, I doubt it'll ever get like super huge or anything like that, but it's such a cool book, and there's some like scary scenes in it too.
I'll check that out.
I'll show it to you right now. It's really good stuff.
A local comic.
Oh, that would be great. That's a great idea too.
Jot that down.
Look at this. We're coming up with everything we're going to do next
Always
episode.
brainstorming.
Yeah.
Always having
brainstorming.
ideas.
Right on.
What's next?
What
do you have? Ooh. Afterlife with Archie. I'm very curious.
Okay.
Tell me about this series.
So we're back to Archie,
Speaking
everyone.
of Archie.
Yeah. I made an affinity with Archie early on, and then Archie recently kind of went into a bunch of weird stuff.
He's with Kiss now.
Well, yeah. So they did like Archie and Kiss, right? Years before this, they did one called Archie versus Predator.
Yeah,
where the Archie gang goes on vacation to some island and Predator's there. Is it really?
Yeah.
I really want to read those. I need to get onto that. But this Archie book is a dark tale on Riverdale, and it's all that rhymed. And it also has a bunch of the surrounding characters, like Josie and the Pussycats are in it, Sabrina the Teenage Witch is in it, and that's actually where we start the story off. The story is that Reggie, who's like the wisecracking one, he's driving home one night. I think he's intoxicated actually, and he hits Jughead's dog, Hot Dog, and kills him. And he's upset about it. And I'm trying to think about how it happened. Reggie hits Hot Dog, but then Hot Dog like manages to limp home or something. Jughead finds Hot Dog and sees that Hot Dog is like dead or about to die. So thinking about like how he can save his dog, he takes his dog to Sabrina's house and gets Sabrina to do like pleads with her to do some dark magic to bring Hot Dog back.
That's rad.
So then she summons like these demons and stuff to bring Hot Dog back to life, and Hot Dog comes back to life. And then after Jughead leaves with Hot Dog, Sabrina's aunts find out that she betrayed the rules of the coven, and they banish her to hell. And they like and they turn into these like terrifying monsters, like ugly witches. Like they transform and they like banish her from Earth. Super brutal, man.
Whoa.
So then we get back. Jughead's back. He notices something's wrong with Hot Dog, and Hot Dog now has like the zombie virus and attacks Jughead and turns Jughead into this zombie. And then from there, basically, like it's the night of the Halloween dance, so everyone's at the high school all in costume.
Nice.
Zombie Jughead shows up with a couple other zombies that he's gotten from around town, and then it just turns into like chaos, like everyone's getting turned.
Is this like a limited series? How long did it go for?
It's still going on, but they've been on a big hiatus for a while. I think like issue 11's the next one out.
Oh wow!
The first 10,
cool.
it's like the first 2 trade paperbacks are out.
Okay, cool.
And actually, I have the first trade paperback, and I bought the single issues just a little while ago. So I'm down just to give you the trade paperback if you want. So
I'll
you can check it out,
yeah,
dude. It's
for
first
sure.
6 issues or whatever, 5 issues.
I gotta get on that Archie business because I heard Riverdale is a great show too.
Well, and this is part of the reason why all this stuff is still existing, I think, because Riverdale is a huge success.
Yeah.
Afterlife with Archie came out a little bit beforehand.
And then Sabrina's about to become a show on Netflix, which I'm pretty excited about.
And it's also a dark take
Yeah.
on Sabrina. So I'm wondering if I'm going to see any of this in Sabrina, which would be really cool.
That'd be super cool.
That would be really cool, like some similar themes.
It's not the Sabrina remember from the 90s.
No, it's not, right? No animatronic cat.
Wide-eyed.
Yeah, right. After this whole thing goes down, they take off to the Lodge Manor. Veronica, the rich one, they go to her dad's house. He has like this big, giant Bruce Wayne-esque manor with like a big fence, and they hold out there for a while. I won't give the whole story away, but the coolest part is that like you go like 8 issues in, and then all of a sudden it goes back to Sabrina.
Oh wow.
And it goes into this weird like lucid dream thing. And you find out that Sabrina is in hell. Like at the beginning, it seems like she's in some weird universe where nothing makes sense. But then she's there. She's like surrounded by all these monsters and everything. And because she broke the rules of the coven, she's being sacrificed as like a bridal sacrifice to Cthulhu.
What?
And Cthulhu shows up, dude. It's super Lovecraft.
Oh,
that's
I
why
gotta read
when
this
you're talking
now.
about Lovecraft, I was like, what? And then the issue stops and then it goes back to the Archie story. So for one issue, they like fill you in on what's going on with Sabrina, and then bam, like right back out.
I hope they go back to that.
Dude,
too.
I hope so too.
I'm really excited to read this.
Yeah,
one.
you should. It's really, really good,
Say
man.
Lovecraft in them. That's it.
Even if you don't like Archie that much, or even if you just remember it from your childhood, I think it's a cool book.
Yeah,
because the characters are so intense.
Such a cool contrast. You know what I mean? From that little happy kind of 50s vibe to everything to like a horrific 80s sounding like movie that
it's brutal. And Jughead, and he's on the cover of this one, I think, right? Yeah. He just looks so grotesque.
Intense, yeah.
I wish I had the artist's name. I should have looked it up before this, but man, some gross stuff going on in that book. It's great.
That's
a great series.
Definitely gotta check it out. Wow, interesting. Yeah, and he's with Vampirilla and stuff like that now. Yeah, a bunch of Archie books are out now. Yeah, it's crazy.
I think it's the brand just came back all of a sudden,
and I think everyone loves seeing the little mashups they're doing. It's like the Scooby Doo "Where Are You" series, where he's with Doom Patrol and then with Kiss and then with Batman and Robin and then stuff like that. Yeah,
that's good stuff.
Awesome. Ooh. Little hidden
gem. Yeah, I just want to bring this up. So this one is like the free comic book day version, and I've done a little bit of research on these. There's only a couple issues to the Fubar series, but what I like about it, and I promise not everything I have in here is zombie related, but Fubar is basically like inserting zombies into points of history. So if you're like a history fanatic, this is really awesome. And of course, you know, a free comic book day comic book, you can pick up for like pennies on the internet, essentially. You know, they're you can't.
People just give them away. I send them out when I sell stuff on eBay.
Right.
Just throw it in there.
Here you go. I have a giant stack. But then still, every free comic book day, you go through and get everything. I need to read all this. And then half of it you never read. You just
never, ever.
Wow, what a waste of paper, man.
I know.
But everyone does it, right? Everyone does it. I must have this. Anyways, Fubar, I think, is just cool if you're a history nerd and you like a little bit of horror.
Like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter?
It's kind of like that. I think it's a little more grounded in reality, though, where that one's a little more tongue-in-cheek. Like, and I say grounded in reality, zombies. But it's like it takes itself very seriously, I guess is the best way to put it.
Which eras have you seen it go through?
This one has George Washington in it. I'm pretty sure it has a little part of D-Day, if I'm not mistaken. The other one I have has like Saddam Hussein, like infiltration in the night. They're going into this like, kind of shanty town or something, and then the SWAT team's in there, and through the infrared scopes they see like zombies coming out from these different places. It's kind of crazy. It reminds me a lot of World War Z, the book, which Frank and I have talked about a couple times, but it's very autobiographical in a weird way. It feels like a History Channel presentation.
Is there an explanation why they're zombies?
No context.
Just zombies.
Just here's a story from history with zombies.
That's cool.
That's good. Yeah,
I don't need to know why.
There's like 2 free comic book day ones, and then there's like 3 or 4 other issues, which I haven't gotten because they're like a little expensive. I'm gonna try and see if I can like buy them online or something, but like a digital format. But a really cool book.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome. Definitely gotta check these out. Fubar. Everybody. My next one. Ooh.
Yeah, I want to hear about
Providence. What's amazing about this series is it's of course it's Alan Moore, and Alan Moore, if you've read The Killing Joke, if you've read Watchmen, I'm sure you've heard of it by now at least. Phenomenal writer, and I love reading him so much because every single series, no matter how dated it is, it really challenges you, it really makes you think, and really opens your mind to just this insane imagination. Moore's just done some amazing stuff in comics, and he is huge. Basically, what Alan Moore is known for is like fan fiction. If you look at League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, if you look at Neonomicon and Lovecraft and stuff like that, if you look at Tom Strong,
it's just him like nerding out on something. Right?
It's just like an overload of like nerdage. Honestly, even all of his off series are based off of like the golden age of superheroes and stuff like that.
Watchmen is just a critique of superheroes. It's like him taking like a big analysis of like what a superhero is. And
the Blue Beetle-esque Batman character. You have your Superman-esque the Atom character. You know what I mean? Like he's basically just really good at fan fiction and tricking us all. And now he's the greatest comic book writer to walk the earth. Yeah, arguably. Well.
I mean, I would agree. I don't know as much about Alan Moore as you do, but the stuff I've read is all amazing, dude.
Yeah, there's not an Alan Moore story where I was like, that one was all right. It's more like, man, I need to do research. From Hell was an intense book, and a lot of research went into that, too.
Is From Hell the thing the movie's based on? I haven't seen the movie.
I haven't seen the movie. I heard it's terrible. But
really?
Yeah. And the book is intense. And it deals with like Illuminati and stuff like that, and Jack the Ripper. And it's really cool. Really cool. And he backs everything up because he's done so much research. Honestly, it feels like fiction. Yeah. Or non-fiction, I mean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Nonfiction.
Yeah.
Feels like fiction.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Well, most comic books are.
Well, and this one, Providence, I started this series a while ago, honestly, before we even planned this out. But you have to read Lovecraft to understand this comic.
Oh, really?
You could read this and be like, okay, it's cool. I could see why it's trippy and weird, but literally you need to read Lovecraft and know his work and read a good bulk of his famous stories.
Okay, to understand.
To even understand it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
like the Dunwich Horror, and there's Curious Case of Dexter Ward. I haven't even read that one, but it's something I need to get to. And there's Dagon that's in it. I've read a good chunk of Lovecraft, a good like 75% of his work.
Right on.
But there's still stuff in there that I don't understand because I haven't finished reading it all. Like there's so much, and Lovecraft is so dense. For those who haven't read it, you literally need a dictionary like next to you to understand some of the sentences.
And sometimes I read something and then I'm like, this isn't what I'm feeling right now. And Lovecraft is one of those things. I started one time and I was like, I'm gonna have to be like a student about this. Like,
no, seriously,
I need to be like studious to understand what's going on.
You have to focus and understand to like, and if you lose a paragraph, you're going back and you can't just be like, oh, I could get the idea. No, it's dense and it's great though. It's really my kind of horror because I like the type of horror that, there's the slasher kind of creature-esque type of thing, but I like the unknown, like undefinable and like weird sci-fi-esque horror. Like The Thing. The Thing is one of my favorite movies because it's horrific and it has that sci-fi feel of unimaginable like thing that you just can't process. You don't understand it and you don't know what's there. You don't know if when it's gonna be there. It's creepy and it's eerie and it can happen at any point. And it also feels very grounded at the same time. And Lovecraft writes it in such a grounded way. And if you read a lot more in general, actually, Alan Moore's, all of his work, he grounds superheroes. Like if you read Miracle Man, if you read Watchmen, it's all very grounded reality. And then you kind of sprinkle in, if this was in our, universe. And Lovecraft is the same way. And what's great about this story is that it's about a writer. And he's going out and he's researching a book that he's, potentially trying to write. And he's going around these northeastern cities and states, Massachusetts and Providence. And he was living in New York and he kind of drifts around there and, Salem, Massachusetts and stuff like that. And he's discovering all these like Lovecraft people and stories, and every issue is kind of based off of a Lovecraft story. And Alan Moore intertwines all of these up to where this person meets H.P. Lovecraft, and H.P. Lovecraft reads his diary, and that's where he gets his ideas from. This guy is like called a messenger, and I think Lovecraft, they name him as the Redeemer, I believe, because he brings like attention back to the elder creatures and beings and gods of the universe. So his work had to come out for them to exist again. And now like we've created and like we kind of worship Cthulhu because it's everywhere. We know what it is. It's kind of that, gods die when nobody believes them anymore type of thing. And, and it's kind of funny because Lovecraft was kind of homophobic and he was kind of xenophobic as well, and like he really didn't like immigrants, and he didn't like Jewish people, and he didn't really like gay people. No,
I didn't know that.
And Alan Moore made this guy a gay Jewish guy that's traveling around and everything. So
that's amazing.
And it's this guy, every issue's so dense. Not only do you have to read a bunch of dense H.P. Lovecraft stories, you get to this comic, it's about 30 to 40 pages. The first, 80% of it's pure comic, and you're like, okay, cool, I kind of get what's going on. But then you have like 10 pages of the journal that this guy's writing. It's called a commonplace book. And just like Watchmen, how he kind of has the ends, gets at the end of that. And this is just so dense and so intense. And I was trying to finish this series before we did this podcast, but I'm on issue 12. I'm on the last issue, but it's been taking me so long just to...
effort.
I mean, even then, you read the comic, and I had to go back and read annotations from a website that they have on it, just so I make sure I understand all the references.
You're not like missing something.
Yeah, because it's so intense. And you need to read Alan Moore's Neonomicon, which this story takes place in the early... like 1920s or so, right before the Great Depression, but during Lovecraft's, beginnings.
I was gonna say, isn't that like the Lovecraft period?
Yeah,
really?
Exactly, yeah. And then you go into some modern times, and Neonomicon comes into play, and he has another story kind of based right around that time. But it's all this giant Lovecraft saga that Alan Moore has created, and it's insane. It's epic, and I love it because it's challenged me as a reader, and I had to go and do research, and I had to learn about an amazing writer to understand this comic book. Like, that's what's so great about comics, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it can just change your world, and it can open you up to literature that you never understood. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen's a great example of that. Like, I wanted to look into Captain Nemo and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah, I read Dorian Gray because of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
yeah, and it's Alan Moore's really great at, like, making you feel stupid. So you need to get smarter and read his stuff, because it's a challenge, and it's so worth it and so rewarding.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is far, 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 by far, I should say, the worst Alan Moore movie adaptation, right?
Well, aside from Hell, from what I understand. But
well, From Hell, yeah.
Well, we got to look into that one, actually.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
We'll watch it together, okay.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Although when I was a kid and I hadn't even heard of the comic, I was
I'm
like,
glad
man,
you're saying this, dude.
Like,
Okay.
this was a great movie.
When
This
I was a kid, too,
rad.
I loved it, man. When I was a kid, it was my jam. I
Yeah.
watched it a little while ago. I was like, ugh.
I can't imagine.
Poor
now,
Sean
honestly.
Connery. He lost his career because of that
That was
movie.
his last movie, wasn't it?
That was his last movie because he blew it.
It
And
was
the best
terrible.
part is he turned down Lord of the Rings because he didn't get it. He was like, man, sounds like too much. He was going to be Gandalf.
Really?
Fly, you fools.
I'm so glad that didn't happen.
I'm so glad that didn't
thank
happen either,
God.
man. It would have been so bad.
You shall not pass.
Yes.
Oh
That's
my
great.
gosh. Yeah, just stick to James Bond, Sean Connery.
Yeah, right.
That's where we all respected you.
Yes. All right. Well,
But yeah, dense but worth it, which is why it's not my number one.
Okay.
Because it's taken so much research, I can't just pick
it's
it up
like
and enjoy
not
it.
accessible necessarily. Like there's a wall between.
Yeah,
it.
there's the big. I'm sure as an outside reader, if you want to pick it up and read
Yeah.
it, you'll enjoy it and understand most of it. But honestly, there's scenes in that comic that I was like, what just happened?
Well,
Like,
I mean,
I need to like really think about this.
if you're a diehard Lovecraft fan and you're new to comic books, it seems like a good place to jump in and kind of like.
And I think you need to
test your
understand
feet.
Alan Moore as well.
Oh, really?
Because
Okay.
the way he does certain panels and the way he does certain
Yeah.
things, it's like he does some of the same panel movements as he does in Watchmen, where he zooms in a lot and kind of draws
okay.
focus and it comes into the page. And then there's a lot of circular kind of significance to it. Like at the issue 11, it's playing a record at the end of it. And it kind of reminds me a lot of like the button aspect of like Watchmen. Like it has symbolism behind everything. And it's so dense and it's so much, and I love it. And I absolutely love it. And I've had a blast reading this story. And I can't wait to read the last issue as soon as we wrap this up. And
Yeah.
I'm awake, hopefully, to read it.
Yeah.
But yeah, phenomenal series.
Okay,
definitely.
man.
Oh, and Jason Burrow's artwork. Try not to cuss, but cool. Jesus, man. Because he creates these Lovecraft creatures that you imagine when you're reading the story. But then he puts them on the page and they're all like kind of like fish and amphibians and stuff like that, kind of put together, but they're floating. And there's a movie based on a Lovecraft story, From Beyond. I believe it's From Beyond. And they're kind of like these eel-like purple creatures flowing, and they kind of pull from that and make it the same. And it's Alan Moore, so it's really sexual and it's crazy stuff. Yeah, of course.
right.
Yeah, there's always a penis in every Alan Moore story. There's a lot of penises. But
Maybe it's
I mean,
symbolism.
symbolism. There's rods and circles. That's Alan Moore symbolism.
That's what he explains it as. It's symbolism.
What's next?
I don't know. To be honest, I forgot.
I forgot to.
Outcast. Cool.
Ooh, tell me about the series. I should have read it already. I've been told to read it. I heard the show wasn't bad. Season 2 just came out, and I believe it's canceled.
Yeah. I have a couple.
Another Kirkman, too.
The funniest thing about Outcast, the show is, for a while I was watching it every Sunday night when it came out, or something like that.
What's it about? Is it a zombie one?
No, Outcast is demonic possession.
Oh.
Yeah. But the show was really good, and it had a lot of cool, like, it felt like a 70s horror movie. It felt like Exorcist or Poltergeist, the way that it was shot.
That's cool.
And the lighting and everything. But then it was so slow. Every week I fell asleep.
Really?
I watched the show,
How
like the
long are
first
the
3
episodes?
episodes, an hour. And it was on like, was it Stars? It was on some weird
Yeah,
channel.
I think it was Stars.
It was Stars or
Showtime.
Showtime.
Yeah.
I think it was Showtime. And I fell asleep every single episode, and I couldn't. And I would watch it later in the week when I had like more energy or something. I was like, "Oh, this is good. This is good. This is good." And then I eventually just fell off of it.
In comparison to the comic,
it didn't captivate me. Well, the comic book. Funny thing, we mentioned this. The comic book, I'm very far behind on, and I was trying to like catch up and read them all, and I was like, "Man, I'm not gonna finish
what
through
issue
this
are they
thing."
on?
I think they're on. Ooh, they're in the 20s, I'm pretty sure. And I'm like 10 issues behind or something.
Oh, so it's doable. It's doable to catch up.
Yeah, I'm going to get there. And maybe I'll plug you all in on what's going on. But I'll just give you the premise of Outcast. You meet this character named Kyle Barnes. And he's this, late 20s, early 30s guy. He lives on his own, very shabby, in like a real shabby house. He got separated from his wife because of this incident that happened, and get a little more into that. Basically, he meets this pastor who's he's a reverend, I guess. Whatever, I don't know what denomination is now that I think about it. We're getting way past this, anyways. This reverend, he does demonic exorcisms. Very similar to Exorcist, which is the thing you could draw its closest inspiration to. He's that kind of character where he's like a little bit of like a flawed religious figure, but he's got a good heart and he's trying to help people. He meets Kyle and he discovers Kyle's story. When Kyle was a child, he beat his mom, and that's what like all the police reports show, that he like beat her face up like really badly when he was like 11 or 12. But then the comic book shows you flashbacks, and basically like Kyle's mom was possessed.
Oh, wow.
And was attacking him like every day, and he was like scared at home and everything. And one day he fought back, and some of his blood got into Kyle's mom, like into her mouth or something. And Kyle's blood has this power to rid evil spirits.
Oh, wow.
But
that's interesting.
When the spirit, like the demon, leaves his mom, it puts her into this like vegetative state.
Because it's just destroyed her.
It's destroyed her. There was like some kind of attachment that they couldn't, like when it disconnected, something got taken away with it, I guess.
Yeah.
So anyways, Kyle goes through his life after that event. He gets married, has a daughter, and then he gets separated from his family because the same kind of incident happens where the demon comes back into his life. It follows him, and his wife gets upset at his actions and like kicks him out of the house. And now he it's not his fault. Like he's being chased by this thing his entire life.
Wow, that's cool.
So already you meet Kyle and he's already kind of broken and down, and then he goes along with this reverend, and they meet this child who's been afflicted by this kind of demonic possession. And that's when Kyle discovers that his blood is what cures this thing. And he puts all the pieces together. He's like, this is what happened when I was a kid to my mom, and this is what happened when I was an adult and everything. So after that, these two guys team up as like this unlikely duo, and they're trying to cure all these things. When they start meeting these demons, the demons understand like what Kyle is now. Even before they reveal that they are possessed.
Oh,
like
wow.
that people are standoffish and don't want to get nuts.
And this all happens before like issue 10?
Yeah, this is all like in the first 10 issues.
Oh,
this
cool.
is all in the first like 5 issues,
wow.
to be honest.
Okay.
It moves quick, dude. Kyle, though, is the outcast, and that's what they call him. And the demons like talk to him like similar to a Reagan thing in The Exorcist, where they're like, we are the demon, and you are outcast, and you're going to be what's like that brings us back into power or something like that.
It reminds me a lot of like Constantine or something, like Hellblazer and whatnot.
Very similar. Very similar
that in
kind
the
of
mix.
ideas.
Constantine's one of my favorites.
I'm surprised we like skipped over that entirely.
Totally there's so many.
Yeah. Well, there's so many horror books and essential characters. Like we didn't talk about Blade or anything. Although I'm not a huge comic Blade fan. I've never really read any of this stuff.
This podcast is going to be pretty biased towards Marvel.
Oh, I'm totally down with that.
Because I'm not a big... I mean, I do appreciate a lot of Marvel. And this is a topic for another podcast. But I'm so much more into... Like, you're into Image and stuff like that. And I'm more into DC and everything. But more like the indie DC books.
Yeah,
that's what we've kind of...
I like Image a lot. That's true.
Yeah.
That's like the main one I read.
And you're a big DC fan. I never really hear you mention...
I like Batman. Like, as far as DC, I'm not really crazy about, like, Superman or whatever. I like some Marvel stories when I was a kid. Like, I was huge into X-Men and Spider-Man.
Me too.
But I don't really read those books anymore because it's too... Like,
It
buying
doesn't hit me like the
and
way.
it's like $5 or something too. I think about
their
buying
prices
like
are pretty high.
if I try and keep up with some of the stuff, man, it's like nah, no way. I'm not doing this. I'll read
DC's
it
way more affordable and it has a bigger bang for its buck. And you have great writers and great artists on it.
Well, I'm most excited because I'm gonna like get some good recommendations. I'm gonna be learning a lot. About comics. That's what I'm stoked for.
Me too.
About this
I get
little
to do
project
what I do
here.
already and then just hang out with you about it.
Yeah, that's good with me, man. Well, that's more or less it on Outcast. I mean, that's the story, really. There's, one thing where this old man in a suit is following them around the whole time. And not to give too much away, but it's clear that he's like a higher level demon or something.
Oh, wow.
Kyle's got this old neighbor. He's like an old man, and Kyle checks in on him in the first couple issues. And when Kyle doesn't know about this, but that guy, that demon, goes next door and kills that old man. And then tells him, "Oh, I'm his brother, and he's in the hospital, he's sick or whatever." So this guy immediately like gets really close to Kyle, like lives right next door to him, and doesn't let him know.
That's cool.
And oh man, there's so many more stories, but I don't want to get too far into it. I'll let y'all check it out. It's another Kirkman book. It's cool to see something in color after reading Walking Dead. It's all black and white. But it's really got a great story. I'll catch up on it. Maybe we'll do Outcast eventually. We could talk about it.
We could talk about it compared to the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. Cool, I'd love to check it out at least.
What we got?
Should we do... Let me give you an option. Should we do this one or this one next?
I feel like we should do this next because it's going to be so short in what we're going to talk about it.
So, one of our forgotten books that we both admired greatly, but didn't get to rereading for this episode, was Witches by Scott Snyder, who also wrote American Vampire.
Yeah,
didn't even think about that.
He's got 2 spots on the list today.
Snyder's and Scott's expressed a lot of attachment to horror in general. Like that's kind of his little niche that he was really into for a long time. But Witches is just so good. You have the artist Jock. I always thought that was a trippy like sub name. Jock. That's it.
I don't pay attention to the names as much as you do. I got to learn more about the names, man. I'm gonna be honest.
He's
actors. I got
from
actors.
England, I think, too, and he does great concept work. Okay. He did concept work for like The Last Jedi and whatnot.
Really?
So cool.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I love all the body horror kind of stuff in Witches.
Yes.
There's some really creepy ideas. Yeah, concepts.
It has it's kind of cool. It kind of has that classic horror feel. You know what I mean? Like we're going with Frankenstein stuff and vampires and now witches. Witches is just cool because I remember reading it and feeling really tripped out. I know the next volume of Witches is getting ready to be released too.
Really?
Yeah, they're gonna have a Halloween special, and then volume 2 comes out. So really excited for that. But
it's gonna come out on Halloween.
There's a special that comes out on Halloween.
Whoa,
yeah,
okay.
I'll let you know. We'll read it.
You need to contact your local comic shop.
I think the cutoff date's already ready, but I'm sure you can still get it.
Well, I'll have to ask about it.
eBay it. But no, it's just a great series. It's 6 issues. The artwork's phenomenal. The storyline is just it's so kind of Stephen King-esque with a kid in a small town, and their family moved into the woods, and I think they live inside of the trees there, right? Yeah.
It's kind of weird because to me it sort of has that vibe that Stranger Things is kind of trying to get in on, like that Stephen King-esque vibe. But this was before that.
This is a few years before that.
And if you dig Stranger Things, this would be a really cool book.
This is a great book.
And what is it? 6 issues right now?
6 issues, yeah.
Yeah, very easy to get into.
They have the trade paperback everywhere. It's an Image Comics release, so it's probably like $15 or something like that.
They're not expensive.
But it's such worth.
Which is why I read Image comic books.
Affordable.
Oh, these were $3.
But no, it's a great book. It's creepy, and it leaves you at the end of it. It leaves you like, oh my gosh! Like I remember the ending. I don't remember the ending, but I remember feeling the ending when I finished reading it, and I was just like, man, that was insane.
That's so funny.
So read it. We'll reread it, and we'll maybe talk about it sometime. Maybe when the specials come out or issue 1, we'll do a review.
Plus, we got to line stuff up for October next year.
That's true.
Because this first episode, we're barely getting the tail end of October. Next year, we'll have a nice little.
Yeah, we'll line it up because it's. I hope they do a TV show off of the series. It's
It'd be
good. It'd be really cool.
And not to change gears too quick or anything, but that was the problem with Outcast, is that they did that show, and
it
the
was
comic
only
book was like 6 issues in.
Yeah, like 4 issues or something like that.
Walking Dead had like 70 issues to
which makes sense
to beef it out.
It had a history, and I don't know how you could do a TV show off of something that doesn't have a history.
And that's why I think the TV show was so slow, because they had to stretch it out so they didn't catch up.
Because you don't really
to the
feel
comic
like
book.
it's hard to grasp the characters and
Yeah.
their traits and put them into that environment like that
Yeah.
quickly. I could see that for sure.
Not to derail it too much, but yeah, Witches would be a great like miniseries or
Yeah.
little Netflix special,
Yeah,
Ooh,
something like that.
yeah.
Even like maybe a movie.
It could be a movie.
Could be a movie. It's
Two
short enough.
movies. Yeah, it could.
Yeah.
No, you could do it in a movie. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Phenomenal series. Scott Snyder just tearing it up.
We'll write the screenplay. We'll send it out to y'all.
The last pick, my last pick, Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing, just love Swampy. He's just great in every way possible. He's a creepy kind of, not even, there's no way he's a grounded type of creature. He's just a total horror monster.
I know nothing about Swamp Thing, but he reminds me, like, he seems like he fits in with like the Creature, Black Lagoon,
Yeah.
Frankenstein, like
Exactly.
that Universal horror classic
Kinda just
lineup.
that big creature that
Yeah.
he's not trying to terrify you, but he is terrifying, you
Okay.
know? And his history is so intense. You have Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson do the first 10 issues, and they created them. Len Wein was actually the roommate of the guy that created Man-Thing right over here.
Ooh.
And they just happened to create, apparently they created the two characters at the same time. And they were just like, oh, hey, we have the same concept, basically. That's cool. And never did anything about it because they felt like it was, you know, original enough in each of their own ways. But this came out in the 70s. His first appearance was in House of Mystery, like 27 or something like
Okay.
that. And I think Bernie Wrightson did the artwork for that one too. And you've seen this character like referenced in The Simpsons and stuff like that. Like that, just the swamp creature. And it's such a cool, eerie story. It's a botanist that is trying to figure out something, I think, to vegetate like deserts and whatnot to, you know, keep the world like safe and everything. And these like gangster guys try to come through and they're threatening him to get out of there, and they're in the swamps in Louisiana, and they end up like infiltrating his lab, and he catches fire and like all the chemicals fall on him, and then he falls into the swamp, and then everyone thinks he's dead, but he emerges and he's like the Swamp Thing. And
Cool.
he goes on these weird like horrific stories. He visits this town and he learns about Anton Arcane, and he's like this weird scientist in like a castle, and he has like these weird creatures that are always with him and whatnot, like very like 50s horror-esque, where you just had weird stuff going on all the time. There's an issue where he saves a witch at one point, and he even meets Batman.
Really?
Yeah, goes to Gotham, and he goes to Gotham a couple times. The first time, I think he's just trying to like figure stuff out,
Yeah.
and then Batman's just like, dude, what the hell are you? And it kind of, the whole first 10 issues are all Len and Bernie.
Okay.
And after that, you switch creators, but then Alan Moore took on the character of
Ooh,
a few,
okay.
I believe issue 20, so it was still very fresh in the Swamp Thing timeline. And Alan Moore just went everywhere with this guy. Not only, it starts off with him fighting a villain that you would never find terrifying, the Floronic Man. And have you seen I think most people know him now from I think it's the Batman Harley Quinn movie.
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet.
He's one of the villains on it.
Okay.
And it's an intense film.
Really?
Honestly.
Really?
Pretty graphic for a DC animated film. Not gonna lie.
Interesting.
There's a Harley Nightwing scene in there that's like, but anyways, Alan Moore, he made it turn out that when Alec Holland fell into the swamp, that his body just disintegrated, and what came out was no longer Alec Holland. And the Swamp Thing always felt like he was still Alec, and that he still was this man, but just mutated. But Alan Moore was like, no, it's this monster that's imitating a man and trying to carry on his memories and trying to be a living human person. And he just does amazing work. And you basically go from Swamp Thing being this like swamp creature to Swamp Thing being this intergalactic creature that like flies through planets and
comic books.
Yeah, it's insane. There's an issue where he like goes to a planet and it's like this vegetated world. So he basically just, you know, his powers are that he could become anywhere. He could grow out of a plant and transport like that across like the country. And but he goes to this planet and it's made out of living organisms. So when he's created, he's this like mutated thing filled with different other creatures at the same time.
Biomass.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's insane. And Alan Moore just took it up and around, and it turned it into the sophisticated Swamp Thing. It used to be called, I think, just Swamp Thing, then the Saga of the Swamp Thing, and then the sophisticated Swamp Thing. There's a sex issue, and it's crazy, and it's beautiful, and yeah, it's Alan Moore just goes, well, it's Alan Moore. Everything has
Alan
sex with
Moore.
it, yeah. But definitely worth reading. If you want to break into Swamp Thing and really know his like what he's about, I'd read the first 10 issues by Bernie Wrightson and Len Wein.
Okay.
And then if you want to get into some weird, just beautiful stuff, go into Alan Moore's 45 issue run or so. And also Mark Miller. Mark Miller
Wow.
took Swamp Thing, and he's an earth element essentially,
Okay.
but then also had him go through these trials to gain powers to other elements. So he became like a water and fire and like earth,
Whoa.
like stone infused, and then he was just like this mega Swamp Thing that like basically was earth avatar basically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Super
dude.
cool.
Okay.
And then you also have like the villains, like the Rot, which is like kind of like you have life and you have death, and so the Rot is like decay. And Anton Arcane becomes part of this Rot, and he's this weird, twisted, like monstrous looking villain, and the Rot will take over the living, and like plants will die and stuff like that. And it sounds like cheesy because it's like plants and you think of poison ivy, but it is the coolest thing in the world. They just take it somewhere else and make it super supernatural and bizarre and fun and just sci-fi and superhero-y at the same time. They arrest the girl he's in love with. She's gonna be actually, they're making a Swamp Thing TV show for DC Universe. Yeah,
Really?
James Wan is working on it.
Whoa,
and
James
you know
Wan?
it's gonna be cool because he does some amazing
I
horror
love James
stuff.
Wan. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, well, there's a Alan Moore part where Swamp Thing has to go back to Gotham, and I remember that they have his wife essentially, and they won't let her go because, like, I guess her and Swamp Thing got it on,
Oh, okay,
and they
so
were
some
just like,
kind
this
of,
isn't allowed because
Yeah.
it's like getting it on with like an animal in a sense, you know what I mean? Like, it's not another human you're having intercourse with. And then so he's terrorizing Gotham and turning it all green, and stuff is in chaos because you go from technology and these like, you know, what we have as natural today is, you know, 4 walls and carpet and stuff like that, to like this beautiful natural area that's actually saving like the city in a sense, but it's also destroying what they have as structure. And he's trying to save his wife, and he's like, guys, I'm gonna continue destroying stuff until you let her go. And then Batman's like, all right, this guy's not gonna stop. I can't stop him. You guys can't stop him, obviously. He's like, let's just give her back, like, just do it. And they're like, why? This is insane. Like, it's going against our rights. And he's like, are you gonna tell Hawkman and Hawkgirl not to get it on? Are you gonna tell Superman not to date Lois? Like, stuff like that, you know what I mean?
That's
like,
interesting.
it opens up
It's the
doors.
same thing, really.
Yeah, you know. And so I thought that was a really great storyline that they did with that one. But just overall, Swamp Thing, if you want to just be mind blown and have some great reading, go with that. The
That's
issue
cool.
we have in front of us is a Walmart, which are actually, these are super hard to find. It's the Walmart 100-page giants that DC's releasing right now. Greg Capullo, who was the artist for Scott Snyder's new 52 stories, is doing the Swamp Thing, and Brian Azzarello, who did Dark Knight 3, and actually is doing Batman Damned right now, where we get to
Okay.
see some bat
Oh,
penis. Yeah.
I heard about that. I
Yeah.
haven't. What is that? What's that all about?
I mean, all everybody knows about it is that we see Batman's penis if
Wow.
you get the first print, and they're not reprinting that book, so it added a bunch of value to it. But
That's
basically,
hilarious. Oh my
it
gosh.
seems like the Joker died, and it involves Constantine, and it involves Zatanna and Batman, and Gotham City's kind of like this living, breathing type of thing, and the story's kind of about Gotham right now. Only one issue's come out.
Yeah.
Out of the 3
I
story
just saw like a bunch of hubbub on it about the internet.
It's a good issue.
Like, hey, get down here. We have one issue left.
I'm not like a personal big Azzarello fan.
Okay.
Not really, just not. I've read some of his Constantine. I wasn't crazy about it, but Lee Brohimo. I always mess up his name, no matter what. Brohemo or something like that. Brohimo. My girlfriend will correct me later on. But his artwork's fantastic.
Huh.
It looks like you're staring at like a freaking 13th century painting or something.
Whoa,
It's just so
okay.
on point. It's just beautiful, amazing artwork. You guys need to look them up for sure. But Batman Damned is actually probably a pretty good Halloween book as well if you're looking into this now. Part of DC's Black Label
If you
series.
can find it.
If you can find it for under $50-$80.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's why I was seeing it for $50, and that was like
just
a
wait for
couple
the
weeks ago.
hardcover. Get the collected edition. Read it all
Yeah,
there. But there
there you
will
go.
not be any bat penis.
Wow. So
If you want the Bat D.
if you want to see the Dick Grayson, you got to get that first issue.
And they're changing Dick's name to like
I
Rich.
saw that Rick Grayson.
Yeah, you're just like, all right, I guess
Well,
no
his
more
name
Dick
is
jokes.
Richard, so
Yeah.
it should be.
It should
but
something, but they just took.
to
they
me,
just
it
wanted
seems
it
like,
to-
really, guys? You couldn't take all the Snickers anymore? It took you
Yeah.
like 70 years or whatever. No,
Yeah.
not 70 years, but
Well, pretty much 75 years or so.
how long has Dick Grayson been around for? A long time.
A long time. How long after? Because Batman's been around for 85 years now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like 85 years.
And he was the first Robin, so it was whenever. Which makes sense because, 70 something years ago, if you said Dick Grayson, people wouldn't be snickering, probably.
Yeah,
They'd be like,
everyone,
"Oh, yeah."
everyone was called Dick back in the
Yeah,
days. You know what I
that's
mean?
when the name was popular.
Yeah, just like gay, man.
How weird. Well, I mean, how are we going to censor this episode? It's a bigger question.
No, that's true. It's segments. We'll break it up.
That's too funny.
But
man.
Swamp Thing's just great. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of
That's
supernatural
cool.
fun, and it has that monster vibe. If you want monsters and cool stuff like me, then read Swamp Thing.
Cool stuff like Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
I went in today knowing this much about Swamp Thing, and now I feel like I know a pretty good amount.
Yeah.
Like I can learn way more
Dive
about
into
Swamp
it.
Thing.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Interesting, dude. Yeah, I'm very interested by what you're talking about. I'll have to check that character out. Isn't he in Injustice? That's like the only thing I know him from.
That's like
is
the
that
only
he's in
character I played
Injustice.
as. Yeah.
How funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they gave Scott Snyder gave him these cool like elemental wings and everything that come
Whoa.
out, and like this crown that it's just awesome. He's just a
Okay.
cool looking character.
I'll have to play Swamp Thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right.
He's kind of slow in Injustice, but he could take some hits.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Well, what kind of horror? Before we close this up,
Yeah.
is your favorite kind of horror? There's so much. It's so wide and so versatile. What's kind of the horror that attracts you?
That's tough. Now, are we talking just comic books or just like in general?
Just in general, like horror. Like what if something is just like, oh, it's a horror movie or a
Yeah.
horror comic? Like what would draw you to that?
Well, I feel like in my life, especially with film and music in particular, I'll get in like moments of binging where like a whole year will be like, okay, I'm going to do everything about this. I'm going to learn as much as I can. Lately, I've been on a slasher binge
Ooh.
to like learn all the slasher movies, all the essentials. I've seen all of Friday now. I've seen all of Jason. I'm watching Michael currently.
Nice.
I need like another. There's only like 3 I haven't seen. Apparently, they're all the bad ones too.
I know somebody that has a book signed by everyone who played Michael Myers.
Whoa, that's
Yeah.
cool.
And I think Jason as well.
And there's a lot of Michaels. Jason's, there's like 5 of them.
Yeah.
But still, that's pretty cool, dude.
Yeah, I'll
That's
show you a
really
picture
awesome.
of it right now.
So slashers is like the flavor of the month, but I can't say that. For me, it has to be zombies. Like for sure, zombies are my favorite horror. It's the reason I like horror.
Is there a horror that scares you that you're just like, I can't do it?
No, I
Is
don't-
it like your genre?
don't want to sound like a tough guy or anything, but I feel like I don't have any fears. Like, to get into a channel mate over here, Frank, that dude's afraid of he has like a phobia of mirrors.
Yeah.
And
Tour was hard.
and you can't joke around about like Ouija boards or anything with Frank, like anything involving spirits. He takes it very seriously.
Yeah.
Me, I'm like, whatever, like spiders don't scare me, ladders don't scare me. Like I don't think I have a fear. I don't know, man.
Oh, wow. We got to find one.
To be honest, movie wise, I don't know. I feel like I haven't been scared by a movie in a long time. Like The Exorcist was alarming because I saw it when
Yeah.
I was younger, and that's the point. Of course, there's always jump scares. What I love in movies is when I can feel the tension, and some tense movies that are coming to the top of my mind just right now. We just finished talking about The Strangers for the YouTube channel, which you can see more about, but that movie's got great tension and pacing until the end. And then maybe, if you read Witches and you need to do like a pairing with a film, watch The Witch, which is this like Elizabethan horror movie with this like group of pilgrims essentially who live out in this like shack in the middle of like they're frontiersmen,
wow.
there's no one around them. They got banished from this town they were living in, so this family lives off on the prairie on their own, and there's a witch in the woods. There's a bunch of witches who live in the woods, and they snatch up their children and stuff. And it's like a awesome horror movie. If you haven't seen that movie, dude,
Hey, check it out.
oh, I'll loan it to you. It's one of the best horror movies to come out in like 20 years or something.
When did it come out?
4 or 5 years ago now.
Oh, very accessible.
Very,
All right,
yeah.
cool.
And they talk with this really intense, like, English accent, like this old English. You got to watch it with subtitles.
Ooh, that's cool.
But it's scary, dude. What about you? What's the horror that gets you going?
I'm not a big horror fan.
Really?
Really, this is like the extent of my horror
How
knowledge
funny.
and want. And like
Okay.
even video games. I played Dead
Really?
Space and I was like, that's terrifying me. And that's the extent of my like horror knowledge.
Whoa.
I don't
Okay.
watch horror movies. I don't look into horror TV shows. I think Swamp Thing and Lovecraft is like the extent of like my horror knowledge and want.
That's the two things I know
And-
nothing about.
And it's like even the classic stuff. I've tried watching the classics, but honestly, I
Okay.
get scared. I'm not even gonna lie. I'll get
Really?
scared. Yeah, totally will get scared.
Oh, man. Okay, watch The Witch, then you're going to be terrified,
Down.
dude.
Yeah,
That movie's...
I can't even play
grotesque.
like. I don't even Dead Space alone scared me like playing at night.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're going to get Brandon to play some Resident Evil 7 in VR for the channel.
and
We
I
had
will
Frank
cry.
do some, but
yeah,
he
I did
wasn't
not
that
want to
afraid
play that.
about
I
it.
thought it was gonna traumatize me.
Oh,
I was just like, "There's no way."
I got
will
the
pee myself.
I got the save loaded up. I have the spot to take you to.
down.
It's already
Down.
saved on there.
You want to see me cry?
That's awesome, man.
And I mean, I
am.
think
I'm
I
down.
mean I've enjoyed The Walking Dead. I enjoy zombies and all that, but I think I enjoy the concept. But I haven't found like a story that's really been like, oh, I want to be immersed in this. But I
Oh, like
do
a zombie
love
story.
like that horror. I guess feeling. I love
Yeah.
that horror like concept, like where it's I don't know a lot about it, but I know I enjoy it.
Not to brag or anything, I feel like I've seen almost every major zombie film. And if
I would
I
be
have
surprised.
to make a suggestion, like someone who wants to get into it, the one that would be like very low, like I have to put minimal work in, is 28 Days Later. If you haven't seen that movie,
I've been told to watch it.
it's
yeah.
probably the best solo like zombie film ever made.
Gotta look into it.
It's super scary.
Gotta put a book down and watch a movie every so.
Yeah, there you go. Stop reading, man. No, I mean the other way around. I need to start reading more again. I miss reading. Anyway, this will be an excuse. If you have the time, though, the best thing to do is to watch the original George Romero trilogy, Night, Dawn, Day of the Dead.
Oh, nice.
And it tells it. They're not connected movies, but the connection is like the level of zombie outbreak. In Night of the Living Dead, it's like the zombies just showed up. In Dawn of the Dead, they're like slowly taking control, and then in Day of the Dead, it's like humanity is like one group. That's all that's left.
That's great.
So you watch the movies and you see how it progresses, and
See, you get everything here.
I could watch them 100
Comics,
times.
movies, video games,
Video games,
all of it.
maybe a little bit of music. We'll even read some poetry next week for you.
Read some Bernie Wright.
Well, you know what? I think this is a good time to kind of to wrap things up. Then
That's
I mean,
it. I think that's all we have
Yeah.
to say about
So-
horror comics.
next up on this on Apollo City Comics, we're gonna be chatting almost everything Watchmen for the next few episodes.
We have a watch saga coming up.
yeah. So if you want to
Trilogy.
refresh yourselves, we can make this podcast like a little book club. Like we can all read Watchmen and be ready to go next time, and we'll have a discussion. And we'd love to get your input.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
We'll be hitting Watchmen. Hitting Watchmen hard.
Yeah, hitting
A
Watchmen
lot
hard.
of stuff. It's dense. It's more Alan Moore. But it's
More.
the more show.
The more. Hey, it's not too late to change. No, I'm just joking.
We are hitting a lot of that right now.
All right.
We'll be
Naming is
hitting
the-
Watchmen next, getting some references and tidbits, and seeing how we feel about the whole book. And then
Yeah.
we'll be hitting the movie and all the extra stuff that's
Yeah.
come after that.
We're gonna try and do everything Watchmen ever, pretty much. Like, because Watchmen doesn't spread out that much.
Watchmen
you know what I mean?
babies.
Just a couple little things. Is there a Watchmen baby? Are you messing with me?
There's in The Simpsons.
Imagine like a Muppet Babies style Watchmen adaptation.
great.
They're all like little toddlers.
Yeah.
Rorschach's
Manhattan
like crying
be,
and fighting with people all
covered?
the time.
Well, he's a baby.
He'd be the one who like never
Is always
dresses.
naked,
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, it could make
Dude.
sense. Dang.
Okay, we're gonna work on something. Alan Moore, we have just what you needed.
The Simpsons will sue us. I think that's a Simpsons
Oh,
reference.
is it a Simpsons reference?
Yeah, Alan Moore was in The Simpsons.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah.
Simpsons did it. Well, if you're listening to this on iTunes, you can check out a video form of this on YouTube. It'll be under David and Frank and Beans. It'll be the channel, but we'll have something set up for Apollo City Comics. If you're watching this on YouTube, this will be available on iTunes, where you can just search Apollo City Comics.
It should pop up.
It should be there, hopefully. If we get enough of the clicks. If you want to contact us, we don't have an email address yet, huh? We should have got that set up first. But you know what? For the channel, we have davidandfrankandbeans@gmail.com. Just imagine Brandon in there too. davidandfrankandbeans@gmail.com. Put Apollo City Comics somewhere in there. We'll read it. And we'd love to get your suggestions for the show.
Yeah. If anything you want to read about, want to know more about, throw it in. We will throw it in.
We will.
You throw it in, and then we'll throw it in.
Yeah.
Except for the towel.
You get whatever you put. You get whatever you put in, everybody.
And then we'll put it out. We'll put out if you put it.
Wow, there's way too many pronouns going on right now. I don't know what kind of territory we're getting into.
But check us out. This is episode 1. That's a wrap.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening or watching Apollo City Comics. And I need a slogan here. Next time. That's it.